Hey guys, and welcome to ESH MedEd. You're here with me, Kopper.
And I'm Kronen.
Oh mate, that was so much worse than I thought it was going to be. Oh man, we're never doing that again. Alright, anyway, so Kronen, what you got for us today?
So today we're going to be discussing, should food industries be allowed to fund health studies? At the moment, sugar industry seems to want to be able to blame health risks elsewhere other than themselves, obviously. So we're going to discuss what other health companies are doing to do about this.
Yeah, so obviously sugar companies don't want people thinking, the diabetes epidemic is due to people drinking too much Coke, because obviously that would affect sales in Coke. So I'm guessing from what we were discussing before when we came up with this idea anyway, because you said you found a discussion page online, which we'll link in the section down below. But obviously these sugar companies, they're actually financing health research of their own. And obviously a lot of people think that this might actually be causing bias in some of the results that they're causing. Yeah,
so it makes complete sense that, for example, any sugar company, we're not going to just say Coca-Cola, but any sugar company, if they were to make and to fund any sort of research, they're going to want to fund research which says sugar isn't harmful for you, to enable themselves to sell more of their particular product. Well, the argument against this is they should be able to expose any research. All research should be free for anyone to see, so then people can be able to formulate their own opinion on whether sugar is actually bad or good for you. So
sure, I mean, opinions are always a good thing to form, but obviously we're also looking specifically at science. I mean, obviously whether or not glucose is good for you or not isn't particularly a thing. It's very much is eating a lot of sugar going to cause you to more likely die at a young age?
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of the research is astoundingly saying yes.
Yeah.
But obviously you've also got the other side of this is it's not like it's sugar companies against the government. It's not like the NHS is funding all research against sugar foods as well. You've got a lot of these healthy food places. So, for instance, Whole Foods or a vegan store might start funding research against sugar foods or why meat's bad. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's just these sugar companies that can make the same sort of behaviour. But do we think that it's actually better that health foods are doing that, getting out a little bit more awareness to it, or do you think it's just as harmful?
I definitely think it's good for these healthy food companies to be able to raise awareness. I feel in recent times they've been a bit underrepresented. So it's always been those like Cadbury's, those kind of companies those are the kind of companies which come to the forefront of your mind when you're thinking of food. You're not thinking of your veggies, are you really? Or what's the top veggie company? Do you know a top veggie company?
I know British Farmers, mate. That's all I buy from. British Farmers only.
All I know is it's veg. That's it, really. So
yeah, I mean that's all very true. I mean, you've got all these sugar companies. Obviously, they're making an absolute mint, but you have got this massive resurgence in people going vegan or gluten free and actually moving towards these health food companies. So they're actually almost becoming an empire in their own front. I mean, you look about maybe 5 years, 10 years down the line, I think vegan food's going to be an option in all stores, all restaurants, because it's becoming much more of a necessity now. So they're going to have the money to back up the stuff that they're doing against these sugar companies. But my issue with the whole healthy food companies being able to finance these sorts of research things is you get the same level of bias that you would from a sugar company. And that's massively leading to is almost extremes. So you're looking at possibly like, glucose will definitely kill you, you shouldn't have glucose, or all fats are bad, or all meat is bad, and that's not necessarily the case.
Fair, like, when in actual fact is too much of anything is always going to be bad for you. Everything should just be taken in moderation, really. So that kind of lets us move on to the next topic of conversation, is how our education and how we're brought up has an effect on the way we think about foods. So obviously when you're growing up through school, you're kind of taught after you've done a lot of exercise, you need to drink water, or you need to have something quite sugary because you've lost your sugars. And it's these kind of things growing up which are going to affect your views on certain food groups, food types. So at the moment, we're having this kind of crisis where almost like fat is just a taboo thing to be having in your diet.
Yeah, sure.
When in actual fact, we all know that you have good fats and bad fats.
Yeah, for instance, like a lot of people, for instance, vegans and stuff, they have to get a lot of their protein from nuts. And what this whole thing against fats is doing is it's making a lot of people think, oh, I shouldn't be eating peanuts, I shouldn't be eating pistachios, cashews, stuff like that, because they're very fatty foods, but they're not necessarily bad fats. Because obviously, I mean, we have a scientific background, so we understand the fact that you've got some of these fats are going to be very bad for you and they're going to kill you. But other fats are needed to increase the adipose tissue that you have, so you actually have something to supply energy when you're not on sugar. So it's very much, it's almost like if you're not having these fats, you almost have to be on constant glucose to be keeping your glucose levels up all the time. And it's one of those things that you need to get the balance right. Which is what a lot of these news companies and stuff just aren't supporting. And I feel like education, I know when I was younger and stuff, it was always very much, it was you want to exercise every day, you want to be eating your 5 a day. And outside of that, we didn't really get taught much in primary school. It was very much, it was you look to your parents and you look to your teachers and stuff for the example of what you should be doing in life.
I feel there's, at the moment, there's a lot of social pressure in how you look as well, and this is causing for all these different diet types to come out. So at school, you're only taught about carbohydrates, protein, fruit and veg. But then when it comes, when you leave school and then you go on the internet and you see keto diet, you're like, oh, what's this? Not everyone is obviously scientifically inclined, so won't actually understand what's going on. And then you have some random person on YouTube or a blogger, whoever it may be,
such as us.
That's true. Talking about these diets and how this is going to improve the way you look, or if you want to improve like your athleticism or build more muscle or whatnot, you should follow this diet. And this can't be taught in school. There's not enough time for you to be taught in school.
Also, what age would you bring it in? Because obviously primary school's way too young, you're not going to know what any of that is. Secondary school, I'd argue, you're not going to know 100% what ketone is. You might have heard it vaguely if you did triple science at GCSE. Exactly, but you're looking really at A-level, and by that point you've got your habits down. So I feel it's less about the information specifically. You need to have that information there and available. But I feel like it is much more, it's got to be a point of the people being a good example for these kids growing up, because I know when I was a child, like what I was learning in primary school was your times tables, your spelling, everything like that. The way that I learned how to behave specifically came from all the people that I looked up to who were around me, so my parents, my elder cousins, all my teachers, rugby coaches, whatever it was. They were the people that I wanted to base how I acted off of, because they were the people that I saw doing well. And it's very much just one of those things. You've got one of the generations that's coming through now with all this exposure to sugary foods and stuff that's becoming a very unhealthy generation, and there's massive levels of obesity coming through now, and massive levels of diabetes that wasn't there 20-30 years ago, and it's also because these products aren't there, but it's because those products weren't available when our parents were younger. So what we've grown up with is no decent level of example of how we should be treating those products, because people didn't know. So that's almost just going to keep getting worse unless I think we do something about it now.
Yeah, I also think, adding to that as well, it's easy marketing towards children, like through social media and through electronic gadgets and stuff, because we're in a different era. Right, when I was growing up, all I used to do was like kick ball with my mates. Yeah, exactly. You used to take football out the back until your mum had dinner. I'm even like watching my younger brothers these days, and what they want to do is they want to go on the exports more so than they actually want to go out and play outside, things like that. So that any electronic device is adverts, that increased exposure to. So obviously these companies know this, and so they're marketing their products to children. It's easy to market.
Sure.
And the issue is it's harder to market fruit and veg to kids than it is some sweets.
Yeah, I mean,
like that.
Nobody really believes the whole carrots make you see in the dark thing anymore.
So I think that has a big part to play.
But yeah, I mean, you're also looking at it's the way they're doing it. I mean, a lot of these companies, it's very much just like Xbox and stuff in their adverts. It's people inside playing on the PlayStation stuff. Sure, they actually represent what it's like quite well.
Mm-hmm.
You're playing online with friends, you get very much that sort of aspect of it. But what you don't have with companies like Xbox and stuff that these food companies have is the ability to actually change where you're, what sort of exposure it's going to be. So I remember it was back in the 2012 Olympics. McDonald's was the main sponsor of the Olympics of the food.
Yeah.
Which was it was very strange because obviously I grew up and it was McDonald's was a treat you had once every sort of like 2 months or something on the way back from like the zoo or something like that. And it wasn't a particularly big thing, but nowadays obviously they're around every street corner in big cities, and it's just so much more available. And then to find out that it was supporting sport as one of the main sponsors. Obviously it's one of these big companies with billions of pounds.
A bit hypocritical, isn't
so
it?
So it's good that it's funding some of these lesser known sports like athletics or judo or whatever. But at the same time, I don't think it's right that a 10-year-old kid will go to watch his idol like Usain Bolt or Mo Farah or something running, and they'll sit in the stands eating a Big Mac. It seems the exact opposite of what you should be getting from going to an athletics meet.
It definitely is. I definitely agree with you there. It's just companies using that platform to market themselves. You can't, in that sense, you can't really blame the company for wanting to do that, but you can understand the negative connotations of doing that. So how do you think you could approach that? How could you go over that?
I feel like around sporting and stuff, at least there should be almost some sort of regulation around whether or not these companies that sell the extremes, so McDonald's, or on the contrast, vegan restaurants should be able to support it in general. I think you should have a very middle ground. Like they're allowed to put in their food. They can have like a food stall or something there. But I feel like there should be a much more broader array of what's available so that you can see what's going on. It's you're not either going super healthy while you're doing it, but you're also not going super fast food.
I think McDonald's have responded a little bit. They're forced to bring in a healthy foods menu, which they brought in a few years ago. And
is it actually healthy foods though, or is it just you get an apple bag and you're in your Happy Meal rather than I don't know, like a small McFlurry?
It's better than what they used to have.
I mean,
to be honest. And in terms of these large companies, if you go back to how tobacco used to be marketed, and it was to the point where the researchers knew that tobacco was bad for you, yet they still marketed it for people to go and buy. And then it's only when you look back at it now, how stupid and naive as a population.
You've got massive amounts of people dying from stuff like lung cancer now.
So,
but I mean that comes back into, again, it would have been the tobacco companies who would have been supporting the research companies that were releasing those results and stuff, which is exactly what we're getting now with Burger King, KFC, McDonald's, Subway to an extent, all supporting the research into whether or not their food's okay, and that's obviously causing a bias.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, obviously, the one way that you could get rid of this is bringing in regulations. Regulations that mean that any findings found all have to be released and made public. You can't have studies that are dummied slightly or something like that, and you can't have a weird manipulation of the statistics, because I mean, there's the famous saying, statistics can be manipulated to say whatever you want. So obviously that's not a thing. You need to have the raw statistics out there for anyone to view. But that might cause an issue because you've got a lot of these research labs and stuff like that are actually very reliant on the revenue that they're getting from these companies. So they're not going to actually want to comply to the regulations and stuff like that, because they'll lose business. So there's got to be some other way that you can go around doing that, like possibly having a kitty fund of some sort from all the companies or something like that, surely.
Explain how a kitty fund would work and how that benefit.
Okay, so for those of you that don't know what a kitty is, it's in England there's a thing where you go out to the pub or something with a few mates and everybody will chip in £20 into a kitty, and what you do is you then every round you go up you use the money from the kitty until the kitty's depleted, and then everyone's put in the same amount that they've wanted to and got the same amount out. So it's a way of just stopping discrimination, so you don't end up with one person buying all the rounds, so you don't end up with one person going up and buying Jaeger bombs 3 times in a row. You get that difference in like, oh, we'll get a beer this time, or we'll get a soft drink or something like that.
Would you say the large, using that analogy, would the larger company have to input more money into that kitty? Do you think that would be fair?
It depends what way you're looking at it. I feel like with the analogy that I'm talking about, obviously, is everybody goes in, they're all equal in the scenario. But obviously, what it tends to happen if you've got a designated driver or something that's not going to be drinking as much, they tend to spend less in the kitty because they're not getting as much out of it. So it might be that sort of situation where the big companies, because they're going to be getting a lot more revenue out of these results, put in more money initially, whereas these smaller companies that aren't going to have as much of an impact from the good graces of people seeing that they've done this, don't put in quite so much money. It'd be more on a scale, and you end up with this massive fund of money that then gets distributed to all these different research places. You can have 3 or 4 doing the same testing at the same time, so you've got these different places that can give the same sort of results. So you can get an actual look at whether or not it's causality or whether it's just a correlation that's happened in one certain situation.
So the thing is that what you suggest is like a very diplomatic way of going about getting the research and getting a good quality research. But do you think if you were ahead of one of these big companies, you'd agree to such a thing?
Oh no, definitely not. No,
Exactly.
no way. I mean, like you're looking at it, it's like you've got Coke, Pepsi, all that lot coming into it. They know that glucose isn't the best thing for you. Neither is a lot of the other substances that they have in there, like the aspartame that they have in their diet products.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yes, it's sugar free, but I mean, enough of it's still going to kill you. But
even the sweeteners have been found to even be.
They're not going to want to put into a massive thing, because if they fund it themselves, they can get more favourable results for themselves. But on the contrary, you've got all these really health conscious places that are going to put their money, aren't going to want to put their money in, because they want the results to really damnate these massive companies that are selling all these sugary things. So they're going to want the research skewed slightly their way. So the issue is although you've got this perfect middle ground that's really needed to be reached, no one on either side is going to want to go there, because to them, that's them giving up ground.
Exactly.
And nobody wants to give up ground, so it's very difficult to get both parties to give up ground. It's not something that I think we're going to see anytime soon.
You think this definitely have to be enforced by the government? You think?
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
Anyway. So,
but the issue is as well with government enforcement is a lot of companies and stuff that just go, okay, we'll just get rid of that distribution center or whatever in that country that's enforced this. That country loses out on a lot of jobs, and
companies will definitely
and then the company can get out of it. So I mean, there are world organisations that can go around and try and sort this out, but it's whether or not they've got enough enforcement to actually do it, because you've got these councils, they're hundreds and hundreds of companies, and all you need is one of them to say no. They'll get all of the business from one of these companies, and everyone else will be left one leg in the grave. It's not an ideal situation for anyone, really.
No, it's not, is it? I think we've covered a lot of topics today, haven't we? Do you feel there's anything else we could cover?
Well, I mean, on this subject, I feel like we've covered everything in enough depth that we can get the conversation started, and that's all our aim is. Obviously, we're not going to be telling people exactly what to think about the situation. They're obviously going. I mean, you're all going to have to make up your own minds, but I feel like if we keep going, we're just going to start going around in circles. I mean, no one wants to be going around in circles. But yeah, so I think what we're gonna do is close this out here. So as many of you may have noticed, we just introduced ourselves rather than the actual show as a whole. This discussion podcast is something that we're going to do fairly frequently on different subjects. We haven't actually come up with a name for it yet. This is our first week, and everything we came up with just sounded really bad. So what we want is for you guys just to leave in the comment section what you think this should be called. Obviously, please try and be polite. We'd prefer not to have any personal attacks on ourselves. But yeah, if you get a name in that we actually quite enjoy, then we'll use that, and we'll actually credit you in the upcoming videos, and possibly even in the description of all videos for this sort in the future. But yeah, thank you for listening to us. I've been Kopper
and Kronen.
Oh mate, we really need to stop doing that. That's terrible.